We're at the 25th CROI. We're here with Mazvita Sengayi, and she is with the National Cancer Registry of South Africa. We appreciate your taking the time, and we talked with you the other day. You were at a poster session, and we're going to explore this a little differently because you were a young investigator and you evolved recently. So tell us about your full experience as a young investigator, and now you're establishing yourself in the work that you're doing. Can you give us a sense of that background?
Yes, thank you very much. So in 2013, I got a Young Investigator Award here at CROI to present some of the work that was part of my PhD work. So this was about HIV testing in cancer patients. So I'm working in the epidemiology of cancer in HIV positive people. So I attended all the workshops and I learned a lot, connected with a lot of other colleagues who were doing similar work. Back then. And at the time, we're collaborating with the University of Bern for the work that I was doing. So we went on to do more studies in HIV-related cancers, a record linkage between HIV cohorts in South Africa and the National Cancer Registry, which I presented at the 21st CROI in 2016. And we subsequently got more funding to do a bigger study. So this is the South African HIV Cancer Match Study, linking the full national laboratory database of HIV to the cancer registry. Yeah, so that was what I was presenting yesterday.
So how do you do that? Is that like just chugging stuff in? Is it a mechanic or technologically tying it somewhere or another? Is it?
So we have a national laboratory database that has all the lab tests that have been done in government labs in South Africa. So this is through the National Health Laboratory Service. So out of that database, we're using all the HIV tests to create a national cohort. So it's like a virtual cohort because everybody is where they are. We don't see the patients, but we have their laboratory data. So that we have a laboratory record for each person, just using HIV data. Then from that, we then link it to the cancer registry. And there's no unique identifier in the database, so we're using probabilistic means to link records using names and date of birth and which province they were diagnosed to link to the cancer registry. And then we can then use that to do surveillance in people who are living with HIV for cancer, and also to study incidence and spectrum of cancers in HIV positive people as the HIV epidemic evolves in the African era, because we only started having antiretroviral treatment rollout in South Africa in 2004. So over time, the eligibility criteria for antiretroviral treatment have changed. We were studying people on ART when they're very sick at 200 CD4 count, and over time we are now at test and treat all. So this is affecting the spectrum that we're seeing over time. So this is the work that we're doing currently now.
What kind of outcomes, what kind of data are you going to collect, are you going to be able to learn from this database? Is it, you're going to learn how important it is to test and treat immediately? Would that be one of the outcomes?
So the outcomes the impact of nationwide availability of antiretroviral treatment early on before someone is too sick, and whether that affects the cancers that we're getting. So they are the AIDS-defining cancers, but also non-AIDS-defining cancers. And the non-AIDS-defining cancers, a lot less is known about that, particularly in African populations. Because in African populations, we have a very large female population who are HIV positive. So 2/3 of the HIV population in Africa is female. That is almost like the opposite
of here, yeah.
So this gives us this insight into all these cancers that would otherwise not be easily studied here because there are not enough women. So all these female cancers can also be studied adequately, and also gender comparisons are more there's enough numbers to do gender comparisons of specific cancers. Yes.
And the work that you're doing, this will just go on. It requires your attention and your ability to completely evolve this work, or is there an end to it? And it's becomes automatic, so to speak, or is this something that requires a certain amount of attention?
So right now, this is funded through the NIH, through an NIAD, so through a grant to the IDEA collaboration. So it's part of a bigger network.
I see.
The International Epidemiological Databases to evaluate AIDS. So we go from funding cycle to funding cycle. So we got a 5-year funding. Then, if we can still motivate to go ahead, then we do it. Although ideally, it would be perfect if we could continue surveillance of HIV uninterrupted, and just put it into our everyday processes, so that it's something.
So that's what I mean. So it's exactly, automatic, but you would still require grants to do some modeling and some evaluation of the data.
Yes, to optimally use the data, to do analysis, so that we can actually inform policy from the results.
It seems like to me that it would be very important because, like you said, it's a very different population. We have to know what it is, how are people becoming infected, how are they being evaluated, how are they being treated. I mean, it's just like, and then like you say, the certain AIDS-defining and non-AIDS defining cancers, there's a lot of information you're getting out of that database.
Absolutely.
So I only hope that our austerity programs today do not end up with cutting something that is as important as this work.
I hope so too.
So I have to ask you, since you are evolving out of this young investigator phase into your established work, and not to say that you weren't established when you were in 2013, but it's an evolutionary process. How did you feel that whole experience? Did you have mentors and people that would help you and counsel you and through your growth into the becoming a real, complete science?
Absolutely. I do think that mentorship is the greatest factor for growth of young investigators. So I got a PhD fellowship through the IDEA collaboration that I spoke about. This is the University of Bern in Switzerland collaborating with the National Health Laboratory Service, the Cancer Registry. So through that fellowship, I had a local supervisor in South Africa. Unfortunately, she passed away, Dr. Danuta Kiokoski. And then I also had 2 mentors at the University of Bern, Professor Matthias Egger, who's an established HIV researcher and epidemiologist, professor of epidemiologist, and also Dr. Julia Bollias, who heads the cancer projects within the IDEA Southern Africa. So I would be staying in South Africa, doing all the research in South Africa, but traveling to Bern for all my courses, for all my exams, and also just to work with the researchers periodically. So I was mentored both locally by my local supervisor who had like the local context, but also internationally, learning all the sophisticated ways to analyze data, and also recommending courses where they saw gaps in the work that I was doing. So that was very helpful. So I was also able to link to other networks. So within the IDEA collaboration, other people who are also doing similar work through that collaboration. So I would really say that the mentorship was invaluable. And I was also encouraged to apply for a beginner grant, which is called the Big CAT, Beginner Investigator Grant for Catalytic Research in Cancer. So this is a CRDF Global Fund for young investigators in cancer. So of course, my focus was HIV-associated malignancies again. So this was also through the mentorship of Dr. Julia Boyes, who helped me. And we also were in collaboration. We were always networking with NCI program officers, guiding us as to where what to apply for, what is of interest right now. So Dr. Geraldina Dominguez from the NCI. Yeah, so she also recommended that, okay, you can try and apply for this beginner grant. It could help your career. So I got this small grant and did a sub-study within this big linkage study called Burden of Cancer Attributable to HIV in South Africa. And now I also have 2 MSc students working with me that I'm mentoring through that
So you're
grant.
mentoring.
Yeah, I'm now mentoring 2 MSc students.
You realize you're close enough to the mentor process,
Yeah.
being mentored.
Yes.
Now you're a mentor, and you're mentoring mentees.
Yes.
So
So
it's-
I still have all.
yeah, no,
Dr.
it's a reciprocal thing.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
I know that you seem to be very smart. You seem to be very animated and very engaged.
Thank you.
And that's critical to be really outward going and ready to explain your work as you did yesterday. So I think the thing that I've seen is that while you have good mentors, the mentors pick good mentees. They pick good subjects because they know they don't want to waste their time. But by the same token, I think you look for a good mentor because you want to make sure that you are, given all the opportunities that might be out there, and somebody that knows all the ropes,
Yes,
so to speak.
absolutely.
But now that you've, like I say, you're close enough to the process, so you're already giving back, which is an amazing thing.
Thank you.
And it's important. It's incredible. So I don't know what we did before this because people were on their own, just flailing out there thinking, how do I make this happen? Their first presentation to a crowd, it must be threatening. But if you know your work, it isn't, is it?
Yes. So it's always intimidating to go on an international platform and to share your work. But I think that, like you say, it's what you have to think about. Okay, you've spent a lot of time working on this, so you do know something. That's why.
If you know your work really
Yeah,
well,
so
it's
you
easy.
should.
But if you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but of course you need to practice and just be. Just relax and know that they're not there to
confidence in
criticize you. They're really interested to know what you're doing.
Right. I think some of them might be mean-spirited, but I think most of them are interested in learning to know the depths and the things that you may have left out of your presentation.
Yes.
So hopefully that's the case. But I thank you so much for being here with me, and I wish
you
you
for the
great luck.
interview.
You have a big future ahead of you and a lot of work.
Thank you for the honor of the interview.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.